Hello, my name is Sri Neslan, and I'm going to be presenting for Group 18. Along my group mates are John Butstatter, Alan, Tyler, and Khan Towan. We're going to be talking about the analyzing the risk of cybercrime in underground forums. So what we did is we reviewed a large-scale study of underground forums, and like our group synthesized some research and found out what could be better. And so, why does it matter? So, forms normalize techniques and attitudes about risk. So, like understanding perception equals like better prevention. So, our lens was just to understand risk perception, decision frameworks, and measurable form behaviors at scale. And a promise of this talk would be that clear findings create actionable implications, such as youth pathways of policy and law enforcement communication. So the article that we reviewed was understanding risk and risk perceptions of cybercrime in underground forums. So the core research questions were like how forum participants perceive risk, what emotions shape choices, and what they actually know about legality. Mixed methods at scale and quantitative NLP and qualitative grounded theory on massive forum data was another thing that we focused on. And what is the relevance to policy here, though? So, data-driven guidance for prevention, youth programs, and there's counters myths about we're going to counter myths about like detection. All right. So, introduction and problem statement. So, some context around here. So, these are instant open forums, and they have easy diffusion of both benign and criminal know-how. So basically, they don't know. Some people don't know what's going on. Some people really do, and it's a mixture of both. So the problem is stopping cybercrime requires understanding attitudes, discussions, and perceived risks inside these communities. So the gap is that traditional criminology underestimates online anonymity and cross-jurisdiction complexity. This basically gives way to a rapid text change. There's a lot of misconceptions here. Cybercrimes are often seen as less serious than offline analogs. There's also some confusion about laws here. So the goal of the paper was to map perceptions and tactics to inform targeted interventions and law enforcement strategy. Our problem statement was the current issue facing those preventing cybercrime is understanding the way in which attitudes, discussions, and a depth of knowledge influences a forum's population to commit criminal activity. So background and related work. Uh, so there's three main background areas: general risk perception, risk and offline crimes, and risk and online crimes. So risk perception and theories in play, behavioral decision frameworks, what youth believe versus what they want, and versus what they do. So uh, on the slide it says gauging risks based on what young people believe or what you want. So it's basically what you do or what you don't do, and about what you believe or don't believe. And then the second model would be prototype willingness. So willingness just predicts behavior model beyond stated intentions. So this is talking about like a young person's willingness to do something better, um, maybe a better indicator of whether they would rather do that thing than whether they would believe they would ever do it. So the prospect theory is that people evaluate risks asymmetrically, and they have a tolerance for risky online behaviors. Let's talk about offline versus online crime now. Restrictive deterrence offline means that fewer crimes under credible punishment threat. Space transition theory talks about how people who offend other people online, who wouldn't be offline due to perceived low capture risk. So yeah, and the implication is that if forms lower perceived risk and teach evasion, classic deterrence signals weaken. So yeah, so that goes with our space transition theory again. So like cyber criminals who may commit those crimes, um, if they were perceived as lower risk, and we teach evasion tactics to those people on these forums, it would be way easier to get out of um, these risky situations. So approach evaluations. So the main approach was taken was querying a database containing over 90 million posts from both surface level and dark web forums covering topics like online drugs and hacking. Around 150,000 posts were selected that contained combinations of keywords and phrases like police or getting caught. So this was from Crime BB, the data set. So there was 26 English and three different Russian forums, and it was between the 2012 and 2019 window. And the sampling was they used like purpose keywords. So they looked for police, law enforcement, FBI, and getting caught slash get caught. There were also some use of quant methods, NLP bigram analysis with PMIs, heavy reprocessing due to surface level salient collocations. There was also qual methods, modified grounded theory, open to axia, and selective coding on random samples for depth. So the strengths were the scale and the speed, breadth across cybercrime verticals, and mixed methods triangulation. There was just a large utilization for these databases for these posts, so it was just way easier to search for exactly what these people said. There were a couple limitations still. Um, Sorry. There were a couple of limitations still. The keyword bias is like it misuses euphemisms or coded language. It's an English heavy sample, so it was just there were limited manual coding coverages, and it was just time bound to 2019. So these were just some of the problems with this research, but it wasn't that big of an issue just because the database was so wide. It's 90 million posts. So evaluation results. What do people really talk about? The top risk terms are getting caught, 10,016 mentions. Law enforcement, 9,899. And the crime types in scope, doxing, DDoS, botting, cheating, fraud, hacking, malware, phishing, plus harassment and trolling categories. And this is what we could only find. Gaming as a feeder channel. Public versus private cheats. Escalation path from rule breaking to more serious offenses by like literally changing the game itself. And there was also a legality awareness split. So like New Year's really had no clue what was legal or not, and they were uncertain about the boundaries. But veterans were aware with an optimistic bias, I won't be the one that's caught type of thinking. And attitudes towards law enforcement, mixed credibility assessments, many underestimated that technical capabilities equals lower perceived risk. And yeah, how people try to avoid risk. Three recurring strategies, anonymity measures, so VPN proxies, encrypted comms, trace deletion, identity compartmentalization, threshold avoidance. They stayed below financial or volume triggers and avoided high-profile targets, and also pacing activities. Community wisdom, they followed safe practices, heuristics, and they learned from shared success failure stories. Emotional dynamics, fear screens out of novices, and was an optimistic bias for those experienced users who continued normalizing offending. And the bottom line was that forums acts as schools for risk management, really, teaching both technique and attitude. Alternate approaches. How do we study this better? Scale up analysis quality. Topic modeling LDA, transformer models for semantics, sarcasm, coded talk, and multilingual expansion. If we can get those posts from all the different databases with each of them with 90 million posts, then that would just be way greater in scale. There is also a mixed method validation loop. We should triangulate with interviews, follow law enforcement case studies, and longitudinal user tracking, check real world fit. Temporal sensitivity, track shifts from post crackdowns or new detection technology. Quantify perception changes over time. Let's keep the time period that we track um, very large so that we can see how it changes through multiple different areas of investigation. And then we should also have a continuous feedback loop, so research and then program design and then fresh data and then iterate prevention tactics to keep the numbers down. Conclusion and overall impressions. What we know now, risk perception is socially constructed in forms. Like learning lowers perceived risk and increases sophistication. What works for prevention? peer testimonials for novices, and these demonstrate the real law enforcement capabilities for veterans. And they also provide legit skill pathways. Policy angles. Youth programs addressing gaming to cybercrime pathways. We should limit this. And targeting legal education to correct misconceptions. Research roadmap. We should go through better models, broader languages, and validate with off-platform evidence and continually update this research. Final takeaway. Effective cybercrime prevention must treat forums as living ecosystems and technical and social interventions all together. So this article was able to contribute to future learning within its field by providing data points, references, and behaviors for future insights. These contributions can seek a new life with the usage of more capable of machine learning to aid in cybercrime risk management. Thank you for your time.